Good morning and welcome to the African American Museum in Philadelphia. This morning we're thrilled to announce that Citizens Bank Foundation has made a $25,000 donation to the museum to support our Share the Heritage celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Through Citizens Bank Foundation's generosity, the museum will be able to open its doors once again free of charge on Monday, January 19th, 2015. This makes it possible for families from throughout the region to honor and celebrate the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Citizens Bank's commitment to the values of Dr. King and their steadfast support of the African American Museum will mean that we will be able to welcome over 3,000 people to a fun-filled day of family-friendly activities, including historic reenactments, arts and crafts, musical and dance performances, and other cultural activities. These will all bring the legacy of Dr. King's dream alive for our guests. On behalf of the board, staff, and members of the African American Museum in Philadelphia, I'd like to thank Citizens Bank, Henri Moore, and the Citizens Bank Foundation, and Citizens Bank's president, Daniel Fitzpatrick. Under Dan's leadership, Citizens Bank has underscored its commitment to the African American Museum and our mission to celebrate African American art, history, and culture. I'm pleased to introduce Dan Fitzpatrick.
Thank you so much. Patty, thank you so much, Patty. Thank you for your incredible leadership here at the African American Museum. For all of us at Citizens Bank, for Henri Moore and myself, all of our colleagues, this is always a special day. We look forward to this. We've been doing this for nearly a decade now as far as making sure that the African American Museum is open, free admission on January 19th to celebrate Dr. King's incredible legacy, the critical legacy for our country. So again, really important, and what we see back here is obviously school children here at the African American Museum learning about this rich culture and rich history. And again, there's no mistaking the fact that how important this is, and as we celebrate the heritage and the freedom and justice, that we're right around the corner from the National Constitution Center as well, that this is really critical. And I appreciate the board's support also from Harold Epps and Michael, your support, making sure that visitors come to Philadelphia, that they come to the African American Museum. Now on January 19th, the focus will be on making sure everyone in Philadelphia gets to the African American Museum. And we hope this $25,000 grant from our foundation will support upwards of 3,000 people and hopefully more guests coming to the museum that day, and lots of fun. But it really, again, it's all about education and celebration of the legacy of Dr. King, especially for children. It's really important that we keep the legacy alive and the knowledge of Dr. King alive, and that starts with the young children coming in with scavenger hunts for cultural items as well. And of course, we'll hear from Lila Graham and her winning essay on why this heritage is so important to her in her life. But again, this is really important for Citizens Bank. It is just our privilege and pleasure to partner with the African American on doing this. So again, with what we're all about, we've got a good banking, it's good citizenship, we've got to support the community, and there's nothing more important than we do in Philadelphia than supporting the African American Museum. So now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce my good friend, and someone who is not just the leader of Philadelphia, but a leader across our nation on the critical topics of education and justice, our Mayor, Michael Nutter.
And today, the very late mayor. So I apologize for holding you up. As I mentioned, I was at Girard College, where today was also the announcement for, of course, the annual King Day of Service. 135,000 folks will be participating, 1,800 sites all across the region. So program ran a little long, or maybe I spoke too long. In any event, Dan, thank you again very, very much. Always an honor and a pleasure to be here at the African American Museum in Philadelphia. Patricia Wilson Aiden, our great president and CEO, and Henri Moore, who does so many things on behalf of citizens and certainly in our own right, and a leader in our community. So we need to recognize all of these folks for the great work that they are doing. And Lila Graham, the 2013 Sharing the Heritage Essay Contest winner and a Masterman student here in Philadelphia. For Dan and Henri and all of our great friends at Citizens Bank, of course, thank you for doing this, and your support has been consistent over these many, many years, and very helpful to our efforts, certainly for Patricia and all the great folks here at the African American Museum in Philadelphia. Thank you again for providing the financial support to open the doors of the African American Museum in Philadelphia free of charge to citizens on the day when we pause for a moment or give our service to reflect on a great American, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It's the 8th year Citizens Bank and AAMP have had this opportunity for a terrific partnership, and it's significantly advanced the observation of the MLK Day in the city of Philadelphia. This year, the generosity of the Citizens Bank Foundation will allow thousands of people to visit the museum free to learn about one of our nation's greatest heroes, a man who truly changed America for the better for everyone. As a part of the museum sharing the Heritage Day, museum visitors will enjoy a variety of family-friendly activities, including arts and crafts, historic reenactments, and dynamic musical, dance, and other cultural performances. I will not be providing any of that activity. Citizens Bank will also host a scavenger hunt to help children learn their way around the museum. With this tremendously thoughtful donation, Philadelphians and many of our visitors to Philadelphia will be able to experience firsthand the valuable insight into the African American experience that this great institution has to offer, experiences that have helped to define American history, again, for all of us. Lastly, as I mentioned at Girard College, and I just told Henri, I just also announced at Girard that the City of Philadelphia, in partnership, hopefully with the corporate community, philanthropic community, and certainly our media outlets, we want to sponsor film viewing opportunities for high school students all across the City of Philadelphia to see the soon-to-be-released in Philadelphia, the movie Selma, so that our young people can have a much better visual understanding and experience of what it was like in those days. And Henri and I were talking, and I think for many of our young people, reading about it is one thing, visually experiencing it in that kind of environment is something else, to understand better what it was like to be a protester, to be a freedom fighter, to be fighting for things that in many, many instances, unfortunately, some may today take for granted, that was nowhere near guaranteed or provided 50, 60 years ago. And so we want to make sure that our young people here in Philadelphia have this kind of experience. I look forward to working with all of you in this regard. Thank you again, Citizens Bank. Thank you again, African American Museum in Philadelphia. And I think my duties and responsibilities are done. I'm going to step back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the highlights of our Share the Heritage Day is our essay contest. So we're so very pleased to have Layla Graham with us today. Layla is a Masterman student, and she won our contest in 2013. She's going to read a portion of her essay right now. Thank you.
2 years ago in my African American history class, my teacher told us about this essay contest. I'm interested in patterns of political participation, and the prompt asked us to think about the responsibility of African American voters. What does it mean to be part of the democratic process, and what challenges remain for African Americans over 100 years after the 15th Amendment and 50 years after the Voting Rights Act? What I'm about to read is my response. As citizens, we have 3 key responsibilities: to serve on juries, to fight for our country, and to vote. Once a person reaches the age of 18, if they choose not to vote, they give up a critical opportunity to be part of the democratic process. Americans are responsible for making an effort for their voices to be heard. The ongoing discrimination against African Americans continues to challenge the community's participation in the voting process and their collective voice being heard. Despite difficulties, there are still ways that they can be involved. Even if everyone voted in every election, simply voting isn't enough to ensure that one's greatest influence in the democratic process is had. By voting, one chooses the candidate whose ideals are most similar to those of the voters, yet no candidate is going to represent 100% of any voter's interests. To be heard, in addition to voting, all Americans have a responsibility to be involved in their community. When citizens are involved in their community, they are able to recognize and understand the community needs and participate in addressing those needs. The involvement can range from running for positions in local government to running in larger government elections, or even just speaking on things such as neighborhood concerns or school issues. On a bigger scale, campaigning in both local and national elections is a good way to help educate the community. Through education, voters can make more informed decisions. However, African Americans are statistically less likely to vote than any other ethnic group. Low voter turnout in African American communities results in lower representation of those communities throughout the United States. Voter identification and other new laws can also make it difficult for African Americans to vote. Difficulty in voting will decrease the number of voters willing and able to get to the polls. Getting acceptable identification takes both time and money, something that many people don't have. It can be a complicated and logistically daunting process that is deterring to voting. Nearly 150 years after the abolition of slavery and nearly 50 years after the Voting Rights Act of 1965, African Americans still face obstacles to having an equal voice. In addition to voting, it is necessary for all Americans to be informed about the world around them and involved in their communities. What will you do to help?
Great job, Layla. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And for high school students who are interested in our 2015 essay contest, there's still time. The deadline is 5 p.m. tomorrow, so get out your computers, go online to www.AAMP Museum and find out about all of our guidelines. We really want to see your essays. We want to learn about how you, as high school students, are responding to Dr. Martin Luther King's legacy. In closing, I'd like to thank, once again, Citizens Bank, the Citizens Bank Foundation, and we hope to see all of you at the African American Museum on January 19th. We're going to have a check presentation now, which is always my favorite part of the day.
Big check.
Can you guys come forward in front of the podium, maybe?
And I'm going to invite Michael Hill from our board.